Hi everybody, Quint Kessenich for Inside Lacrosse. Scrimmages starting on Saturday. Certainly an exciting time of year where teams will now come out of their shell and we get to actually see them in person. And one thing that I want to point out from the month of January, this has been a news-intense month in terms of key players for teams who are not going to be playing this spring due to injury. And when teams unveil themselves next Saturday for scrimmages, you'll also see some missing in action type players who are on the sideline. Injuries, however significant, we won't know. But we do know that Casey Reese, midfielder from Navy, will not be playing lacrosse this year. 34 goals, he's got a knee injury, he's out. That is a significant hit to the mids. Zach Miller for Denver is not enrolled in school right now, and he's not on the lacrosse roster. He's a first-team All-American quality player, 50 points a year ago. He's their number 2 producer. That's a significant hit as well for Bill Tierney. Rutgers took a hit with their Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Adam Shirambides, 43 goals a year ago, tremendous finisher. And then Carolina with Shane Simpson, not on their roster. Speedy, right-handed Canadian, who is kind of a go-to guy in terms of drawing double teams. So news, InsideLacrosse.com is your spot for it, and we should expect some significant news over the next 2 to 3 weeks. One of the key themes for 2017, 8 new coaches in Division I lacrosse. And let's look across the landscape. The America East's got a ton of new coaches, but let's start in the Ivy League. Mike Daly takes over at Brown for Lars Tiffany, who goes to Virginia. Daly building such a strong franchise at Tufts, and now Tiffany at Virginia takes over for Dom Starsia. It'll be interesting to see how Coach Tiffany's style and how quickly it takes for those players to become fluent and effective in a more up-tempo style. I mentioned the America East because Vermont and Chris Fipes is in a good spot. I think Chris Fipes, with his background at North Carolina and Vermont, with Ryan Curtis leaving the cupboard with a lot of talent there, I think Chris Fipes, of all the new coaches, is in the best spot to have success in year one. John Galloway takes over in Jacksonville along with Casey Powell, who is on his staff. There's a lot of youthful energy there and some positives, but I think it's going to take some time. Matt Madelon now is the head coach at Princeton. Princeton's a team, quite honestly, I look at their roster and I find it difficult to see them in the upper half of the Ivy League this year. Binghamton, Kevin McKeon takes over there, a former player. UMBC, Ryan Moran. And while I think Ryan Moran is going to be an outstanding coach going forward, he takes over a roster right now that needs talent, and that's going to take time. So I think Ryan Moran is going to be an excellent coach with his background at Maryland and Loyola, but I think he's got to be given some time there. And then Hartford, Ryan Martin seamlessly takes over a Hartford program that finished up the year on a positive note last year. New coaches, 8 of them. It's one of our big themes in 2017. Well, it's so early in the year, we haven't seen these teams in the flesh, but on paper, I've got a contenders and pretenders category right here. 2 teams that I think may be pretenders. And the first would be Duke. And I know after an 11-8 season, it was a season that they had some really hallmark wins, and then they had some games that left you shaking your head because they had talent. When you think about who left the Duke offense from last year, again, I said 11-8. You had Miles Jones, 70 points, Deemer Class, 63 points, Case Mathias, 56 points, and Chad Cohan, 40 points. Duke, they've got to find some offense, and I think that it's a tall order for them in the ACC. The other team I think that's initially going to be a pretender this year, and I like this team and I like what they've done, but Brown at 16-3, I got to bet against Brown early part of the season. Why? Well, Dylan Malloy's back, the Tualatin winner. He's healthy. That's great. But when you talk about a void in scoring, 5 of their top 6 scorers are gone. Their 60% goalie, Jack Kelly from a year ago, gone. Will Gural, who won 70% of the faceoffs last year, is gone. Their number 1 short stick defender, gone. Their coach is gone. That is too much talent gone for me to think that Brown's going to have a ton of success this season. On the plus side, I really like the Loyola Greyhounds. I find myself, they're 14-4. They made the semis last year, but I really think this team's going to be good this year. You got Pat Spencer leading the way. This guy averaged over 6 points a game in his last 10 games last year. He's a sophomore now. Zach Sirico comes back on attack, and they have 2 proven midfielders in Brian Sherlock and Romar Dennis. 8 of their top 10 scorers are back. They seem to me, with the injury of Casey Reese at Navy, to be the clear-cut favorite in the Patriot League. Another team that's garnering a lot of early season attention is Penn State, and I think it's warranted. They lost 3 games last year by a goal back to back to back. They return the majority of their lineup, and I think they can make some noise in the Big Ten. Led by Grant Ament, the freshman last year, put up great totals. He's a quarterback. He's a little shifty guy behind the goal. Nick Aponte is a proven goal scorer. Matt Florence from the midfield had 20 goals. Chris Sabia is their #1 defender. Now, I think the biggest question mark comes when facing off and goaltending. 47% last year between the pipes is not going to get it done. They get that number into the low 50s, near 55%. This is a Penn State team that's going to turn a lot of those one-goal losses into one-goal wins. They're a team, I think, that is a contender. Right around the corner, games will be starting in the month of February. I want to take a look at 6 must-see games in the month of February as ESPN networks release their TV schedule this week. The first one is Navy at Johns Hopkins. The game will be played on Tuesday night, February 7th. It'll be seen on ESPNU later in the week. I'll be working it with Paul Carcaterra. Navy, I like their defense. Chris Fennell, Matt Reese. Johns Hopkins, I think the offense is going to be excellent this year. You return Joel Tinney and some healthy line mates in Drew Sapinski and Connor Reed. Later that week, it's a good game. Loyola, the champions from 2012 against Virginia, 2011 champs. Lars Tiffany makes his debut against Pat Spencer and the Greyhounds. A week later, there are 2 must-see games. Duke at Denver. You think about the championships that Duke in 2010, 13, and 14, and then Denver winning in 15. That's a game that favors the Pioneers. And then that same weekend, Albany-Syracuse. Albany with Connor Fields. They could pull the upset here. I like Syracuse midfielders, Sergio Salcido, Nick Mariano, but who's playing attack for the Orange? This could be a vulnerable Syracuse team in the Dome against Albany. And then 2 games on February 25th that really bear watching. Johns Hopkins at North Carolina. North Carolina has beaten Johns Hopkins now every year since 2011. That is hard to believe. And then finally, Yale and Maryland. And what a rivalry game this has become. Yale with Ben Reeves will come into the Terp country. They beat them last year in 2016 early in the season. They beat them in 2015, but then lost in the playoffs to the Terps. I'm interested to watch Maryland's offense with Matt Rambo, Colin Heacock, and then you add the talented freshman Jared Bernhardt to the mix. Be really interesting to see what Maryland looks like this year after losing in the championship game. Those are the best games in the month of February. Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed this preseason update. InsideLacrosse.com, your source for news, content, features. Also follow them on Twitter at @inside_lacrosse, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. It's @Q Kessenich. Good luck with the spelling.